Welcome back to stage 3 of the SCX24 Jeep Gladiator build. And as you can see, I do have a game plan for this stage. So I've got basically everything here laid out that I think we're going to need. And you can see the bulk of it is lighting. And I'll just run through this real quick. Mytric RC full light kit and controllers. And I've got 2 of these Crawler Central Club 5 RC cyclical switches. I've got 2 sets of brass weights, different weights. They're both hex weights, so I'm hoping they'll fit those wheels, and we'll just see if those are needed. Gonna get the interior back in there, and it may get modded a little. Got some Diff Skids, and then from last time, you remember I put in the inner fenders with rock light install holes in them, so I've got the rock lights here that go with that. I've got another set of these ditch lights, 3D printed, so I'm going to wire those in. Got my additional lights for my rear bumper, and then mirrors, and I'm going to do a little rack mod, I believe, and then getting on either the chrome roll bar or the black roll bar. So that should basically finish it out, unless I come up with a couple surprises along the way. So we're going to jump right in. I'm not sure what's first, but I'll just update you kind of as I go with the progress. All right, so you can see I've gotten the Mytric RC light controller out and all the lights and the buckets. So this is what you get. This is one reason I've never used this kit before, because if you notice the headlights, they have some double stick and they're little square LEDs. They're not really made for clear round lenses, which is what I usually do. They're set up, I guess, for putting in behind these stickers on a stock truck. So I'm assuming you need to remove a little paint behind the stickers so the light shines through, and I guess that would be true in the rear. And they give you these little light buckets. So that'll work out good on this one. I don't have any rear light buckets, and the fenders that I'm using on this do not allow for typical LEDs. The CC hand have the little notch that allows for the back of the LEDs to come through and the wiring. These don't. So these will actually pair up nicely with these flat LEDs that'll just stick on. So I think all of this will work together the way this truck is set up with these fenders and the stickers on the grill. So I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to install all of this, and typically there's a little clip that clips on the frame, and then the controller clips in onto this, and it sits right there, and I can friction fit it in between the towers without the clip. It has a little bit of pivot, but because there's no back cab, it's a bed on this Gladiator rather than the JLU, don't have a lot of height for wires coming up, so I'm thinking about maybe taking it down here to one of these empty trays. And then you can see I've got the Club 5 switches over here on the side tray, so I've got both of these coming up here to switchable channels. So what I figured out was channel 3 and the headlights are the same. They're controlled by the same switch. So if you have it on channel 3, I can control one of these switches just like normal 3-position switch. And I just don't have anything plugged into the headlights because I don't want that strobe effect at all. And so then channel 4 is also a 3-position switch with just a button on the controller. So I can control 4 lights with 2 switches. So that'll be rock lights, headlights, tail lights, a light bar, and then ditch lights. So everything should be switchable on and off, and some combination within that. So I think I'm gonna just go ahead and start getting things mounted up, double-sided in, maybe get the rock lights nested in here, and get these stuck in so I know where all my wires have to go to, and then we'll jump over to the body and get those lights prepped. And I guess these should go in, but a little bit of wiring to come, and I may not have to do any soldering. I got these nice little crimp tools and this nice set of connectors here. So I can just cut to length and make some extensions and little plugs here. We'll see. May have to do a little soldering as always, but anyways, a little bit of work here. Not a lot of stuff to do, but it's going to take a little while to get it all done. Quick shot of the headlights here. So I got the paint off the inside. Same on the tail lights. So just used a little bit of this nail polish remover, 100% acetone, and then little applicators here to carefully get that off. And just a little at a time, and then wipe it off, because that stuff, too much of it too long, can actually crack the Lexan. So and you want to make sure you keep it behind the sticker, of course. So I just basically took it off where the LED is going to be. So just a little tip there that might help you. Here we are, the little update. Got the board double-sided down and fitted. And I put in the bumper lights and have those kind of tucked under here, routed around low and coming up. And then you can see the rock lights are in and routed. And this one's a little taut since this was made for the Jeep, but there's plenty of slack. It just can't tuck down super flat on this side. There's just not enough length. But these little covers are different from front to rear, so be aware of that when you're putting these back on. Don't force them in if they're not fitting. But those just snapped in, so have not double-sided these in yet. I'm going to wait to get their final position, but probably going to be somewhere around here, similar to this. I was trying to keep this battery tray screw accessible. Same over here. So if I unplugged these, I would still be able to get to that screw if needed. But chassis is just about there. The body, I've got these back buckets shoe good in, so I'm letting those set up. So I think I'm going to start working on getting these ditch lights fitted and maybe getting the rack, getting a few more holes popped in the body. And then once that's ready, it's just wiring in the bumper lights and the ditch lights and plugging this guy up potentially to an extension. So it's looking good. Oh, we do have the mirrors still. That's another body accessory we're going to need to pop some holes in for, but I guess for now we can do a quick test to see. Get that tucked down. So one revelation that I came upon was this interior tray, because I was real cognizant of it around this corner because I knew it set around there, but then I was test fitting it and I realized these rear fenders were getting in the way of it wanting to sit down flat. So it's going to sit about there. So you can see here I had to remove these corners on each side to allow for those fender corners to come up. But looks like it's going to work. I will know when I hinge it. So here we are. So let's hit the switch, channel 3. So bumper lights, which will also be headlights, tail lights, rock lights, and then both of them. And then channel 4, I don't have anything hooked up to yet. So we will test that when we get lights hooked up to it. But so far, looking good. Those rock lights are really gonna be cool. Nice. All right, so that's the update. Moving right along. Alright, made a little progress here with the body side of the lighting. So I figured I'd give you a little shot in here before I got it all covered up with the interior. So I basically got everything kind of routed, taped in place so it won't interfere with the interior. Should allow plenty of hinge slack back here. So I think really the next thing is taping in the interior and then getting in the headlight, tail lights, and bumper lights. And I did get these mirrors on, and they had no conflict with the interior, but I did have to hack this up a little bit more along the front edge for those ditch lights, and then I already showed you this clearancing back here for those fenders. So that seems to drop in just fine now. And I think I'm just going to tape it in with some more of this black tape, so it'll be easily removable in the future rather than having the double-sided on there. So progress, this thing is getting close. It's looking really good. I'm very happy with it. So I'm going to keep moving forward and see if we can button this thing up. Alright, just a little update here, a little note on these headlights. I guess they are intended for you to pop a little hole in the headlight lens because those LEDs do protrude. I just didn't look at them. I was assuming they were little flat squares. So you can see with this double side there's not enough depth, and since I removed the paint off the back side, I'm just obviously adding another layer of double-sided to space them back a little bit, and that should hopefully do it. I think it might look a little weird to pop a hole through the sticker or the lens. I don't know. I think this will work just fine. We'll see. And here we are with the completed light installation. So got those rear bumper lights popped in there, no problem. Was able to feed those through the body and then mount the bumper on and then secure it with the set screws for the LEDs. So that is looking great. So let's take a look inside here before we test all of these. So you can see I took advantage of all this space in here with the wires, but I think it came out pretty clean considering had quite a few coming off of the body. They all have to kind of hinge back here. You can see the bumper lights coming up, and if you noticed earlier, I ran each bumper LED individually. And the reason I did that, because if you are aware, on these new ESC receivers, there's a CLR and a CLL. That's a left and a right. So if you plug in your LED with the negative side at the top, which is typically the signal, that will give you blinkers left and right. So that's what I've got the rear bumpers connected into, and then you can see here my headlight cable from the MyTrick RC is not long enough, but it acts as a nice little hold for the body, because typically this board is mounted in the rear, so it would work, but to me that's not an issue. So I think everything fits in there nicely. So let's get this guy plugged up and I'll show you what it all looks like. Let's get the battery in there, come on. The controller on. I'll get this guy on. And getting the body down is kind of have to squeeze it and make sure it clears the back of the sliders, and then I kind of push it forward and then just give it a good squeeze on the Velcro, and that sits nice and level and secure. We are on. So let's see, channel 3, headlights, front bumper lights, and tail lights, and you can see my blinker lights. So the next switch is the B channel of 3, and that is rock lights. Those look awesome. And then that's A and B of channel 3. So let's move to channel 4. And this was an unexpected surprise. I mentioned that I tested these LEDs, but I didn't test every combination. But these basically work like I want them. So the ditch lights for the A channel on channel 4 switch, and then the roof bar for B, and then that's both of them. So it all works like I wanted. What surprised me was the rear functionality. So apparently the CL2 and the CLR3 are wired in to the channel 4 button switch, similar to the headlight port is wired into channel 3. So I'll show you what that does basically. So it makes one click makes flashers kind of slow for the blinkers, and then another click makes fast flashers, and that's the channel 4. So typically if you have the headlights plugged into the head channel upside down with the negative up top, how it comes from the factory, you get a blinking, a solid, and then an off. So this is similar to that, but it's just 2 rates of a hazard. But if I don't have any lights on channel 4, they operate as indicators. But as soon as I start using that channel 4 switch, they stop working as indicators, and then turning them off, get the blinkers back. So that's the lighting in a nutshell, if you will. So the next thing is getting on one last little bit here, and then we're going to do a weigh-in. So I'm going to get these diff skids on, and then we'll get the scales out, and we'll weigh this, and we'll see where we ended up here. All right, we are ready for weigh-in. But before we do that, let's take a quick look at these tuning weights. So these are 2 sets of brass X weights. The Coda Racing are the ones with these thicker outer edges. And then I got these kind of no-name, they just have the flat backside. So you can kind of see the difference there. So the Coda Racing weigh in at 10.2. These guys with the thick edge. And these little ones weigh in at 6.6 grams. So I pulled out this weld style WT Micros wheel just to check, and you can see the thickness there around the hex. There's plenty of space. Both of these fit in there just fine. So I'm gonna get this guy on the scales and then plot those weights on there and see what they do to it. All right, let's get this thing on and zeroed out. Moment of truth. Let it settle in a little. So you can definitely see we've got a little more left-hand weight with the 52%, probably due to both of those Club 5 switches and all the wiring over there versus the smaller light controller on the other side. So we do have front bias, 54%. And it looks like we're going to settle in around 46 overall. So let's go ahead and adjust these weights all the way around. So just adding the fronts, that's a nice improvement. So that pushes us up to 56.44. So 2% more to the front. This will probably drop us back at least 1. Yeah, so 55, 45. So I think that's what I'm gonna go with right there. I was playing with it just to feel, and it feels fairly light at the wheels, and just due to the height, that may be a negative on side hilling. I think the shocks are going to help a lot because they're dampened, but I think it gets to a tipping point. Well, it's not too bad, but I think I'm going to start on all four corners just to kind of plant it, and I can always remove those rear weights if I don't really feel like I need them. So I'm going to get those on there. And then I feel like I've got at least one more thing, maybe a couple more things, a few surprises to come. So give me just a second. All right, here we are. Got the hex weights installed front and rear. This thing is settled down now. I say that and there it moves. So it looks like we're gonna settle in. I'll call it at 516 grams with a 55-45 front ratio, so that's not too bad. Let me flip over to ounces here. So 18.3 ounces. So it'd be really awesome to know what a stock Gladiator weighs. Unfortunately, I started messing with this guy with the wheels, tires, and then the portal axles right off the bat and never gave it a baseline stock weigh-in. But fortunately, I've got a stock Gladiator right here. Wait a minute. Okay, fortunately, I've got a stock Gladiator right here. So look at that. 265 grams and a 45 front, 55 rear. So we flipped that in the opposite direction. So that's nice. So let's flip over to ounces, settling in at 50-50 there. So 9.4 ounces. And there it goes, settling back to that 45-55 ratio. So that is with the stock battery. The new one, all the weight measurements were with the stock battery installed, so that's apples to apples. So good bit of difference there. Thought this might be a good opportunity to take a look at the differences here versus stock. So this is just a beast. Look at that. Almost hard to believe they're the same vehicle. So obviously I've got my work cut out for me on the tan one. And of course that won't stay tan, because I've got the spare clear body that I didn't use on the blue one. Well, here we are. Unfortunately, it's the end of stage 3, and I'm lacking one last critical piece. So rather than hold this up, I think you will just see that in the final reveal, along with potentially one or two more little details added. But for now, I would say we're 95-98% complete. And as always, I'm very happy with this build. I think it looks super sweet. It achieved that island style lift up look perfectly, with the super wide rims and the big lift and the shiny axles. Just couldn't be happier with it. I gotta say, I really enjoyed working with this new Gladiator chassis. Just the length, the amount of space inside was nice. It's rare that I've got this kind of room left over after a build. I mean, there's just plenty of space around this stuff, so that's super nice. So I think The last thing here is to probably just plug it in, and let's take one last look at this lighting setup. Get in there. Let's get this down, get my radio on. And then, like I said, with these sliders, you got to kind of pinch the back, get them tucked in here, and then I kind of push it forward, get it snugged up to the front. And I have not had any issues with this Velcro. It's been super, super strong. So usually I always go magnets, but for now I'm going to leave the Velcro in this one. So let's see here. We've got power. So let's see channel 1 there. Or I guess, excuse me, channel 3, switch A, headlights, tail lights, front bumper lights, switch B, rock lights, A and B, of course, both. So let's go to channel 4, switch A, ditch lights, switch B, the light bar, and of course, both of them. So that's what you get. Pretty easy to do with stock electronics. As you can see, I just put in 2 switches, and the stock radio already has 2 button controllers for switches on 3 and 4. So let's take a look at those rear bumper lights and that functionality. So right now with channel 4 switch off, they act as indicators, and then as soon as I turn on switch A, they go to a slow hazard. If I go to switch B, fast hazard. If I've got A and B channel on, I get nothing. And then turn them back off, of course, back to indicators. So that's the lighting right there. And man, the chrome roll bar, that just surprised me how good that looked. I just really like that with the blue, and just everything about this truck is just looking awesome. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed, maybe you learned something, maybe this will inform something you do on your Gladiator. And like I say, stay tuned for the final reveal on this, and of course I've got another Gladiator build coming up. So it's going to be totally different than this one, going to go a whole different direction, so stay tuned for that build as well. And as always, thanks for watching.